Hello again. I want to talk about genetics now, not in a technical medical way, but my experience and that of a friend of mine. A lot of women now they've discovered that they carry a gene from their mother which would make them more predisposed to getting breast cancer. As I mentioned before, my mother had breast cancer when she was 51, and my father's mother when she was 51 or 52, and my father's grandmother was the first woman in Wales, I think we're talking about the 30s, who had a mastectomy, and she lived a long full life even back then. Probably had some radiotherapy because that's been going for many years, but I only know sketchy details because it's been passed down through generations of the family. So I had in my head, did I get this because of my mother? About 14 years ago, I was asked to take part in a genetics study at the University Hospital in the Heath in Cardiff. And they had gathered a number of women whose mother had had breast cancer. And so they were asking us questions. We would sit around a table and talk and fill in questionnaires to establish all of our details. And afterwards, having supplied them with my family tree, so basically wrote down all the names that I knew in the family, on my mother's and father's side, and to see who had had cancer and what type of cancer. And then I submitted it to this study team, and they told me that I was at no more risk of having breast cancer than the average woman in the community. So, I was really pleased to hear that, and that was quite a while ago. I did, however, develop breast cancer. And I was contacted by the genetics department after I was diagnosed, and they then wanted to update the information that they already had. And that was really useful because that was on record and I didn't have to go through it all again. So they added in my father's prostate cancer, which had happened since, and what had happened to other members of the family, but particularly then my breast cancer. And then they sent me a letter which I waited for with bated breath. All Wales Medical Genetics Service, and they said that my doctor had asked them to reassess my personal and family history of cancer, and this letter is to let you know our assessment of the level of risk in your family and the screening that may be available to you and your relatives. So it's quite a long letter, but it was basically saying your personal and family history of breast cancer does not strongly suggest that the cancers have been caused by an inherited gene alteration, which can cause a high risk of developing breast cancer. So that was comforting to me, because obviously you think about, I've got a daughter, and you think about passing it on. So it's marvellous that they can now advise you, so that if you are predisposed, you can then elect to have surgery to prevent that cancer developing. And I have a friend who was in that position, and it was really difficult to go and have the test done. But when the test was positive, she was able to make a decision to have other surgery that would give her peace of mind moving forward, to minimise the risk of that cancer returning or elsewhere in the body. There are two sides to it. If you were tested when you're young, I've read that it can affect your ability to get insurance, So it's a very personal decision and something that you need to talk to your specialist about when you get the opportunity. So always be guided by your clinician. What I'm saying is purely my own experience and that of friends, just for information. But you really always need to refer back to your specialist.